Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys, brought to you by the National Hockey Now Network. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now. Tuesday, May the 9th. It is Ian Cameron with you. Alex B. Smith, my colleague, is traveling back home to Chicago today, so he won't be on. He'll miss a couple shows this week, and he was really frustrated he missed today's show as a Blackhawks fan, knowing that we have a former Chicago Blackhawk joining us here on the show today, and you see him on screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. Happy to have former NHLer Jason Williams joining us. Detroit Red Wings for 5 seasons, Chicago Blackhawks for a couple, Atlanta Thrashers when they were still in existence before they moved to Winnipeg, the Jackets, another tour of duty with the Red Wings, the Dallas Stars, the Pittsburgh Penguins, and then outside the NHL, Embry Piotta in Switzerland, a couple stints in the AHL, some German leagues, and even in my little town of Dundas here in the Ontario Senior A. Hockey. So Jason Williams has really been the hockey roadmap, really for his entire career. And happy to have Jason on the show. Jason, it's great to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Well, again, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Where to begin? Obviously, Detroit, because you started there. You had so many good years and played with so many great players there. Obviously, Pavel Datsyuk, Henrik Zetterberg, Nicholas Lidstrom. Hell, Chelios was still playing in the NHL too for some period of time when you were there. The Mule, Johan Franzen. I mean, it goes on and on how many good players there were on those Detroit Red Wings teams. I'm sure it was a great period of your NHL career, those Red Wings seasons, right?
Yeah, I was very fortunate to start my career in Detroit and to, like you said, to learn from such great players. Like you listed, Brendan Shanahan, Steve Yzerman, Nick Lindstrom, Sergei Fedorov, Luc Robitaille, Larry Onoff, Dominic Hasek. The list goes on. Chris Chelios. Like, it's just, it was crazy. Brett Hall. And, even guys like the Darren McCartys and Chris Drapers and Kirk Maltby's, like, those guys didn't have long careers for, just because they were there. They were great players. And to be able to learn from those guys and to really kind of come in as a pro and see how they practiced every day, to see what they did on a, day-to-day basis on and off the ice. It was definitely a great organization for me to start and to learn from. And I just tried to go to the rink as much as I could and just soak in everything. And, and I felt that I did that and was able to, kind of help out and contribute a little bit here and there. But, those guys were great role models for me for sure.
Now, Datsyuk specifically, got to talk about him for a little bit. Everyone says pretty quiet guy, but did his talking on the ice, just incredible skill level, IQ, hands, ability to just so shifty, on the ice. I'm sure just you as a teammate of his, just, sitting on the bench and watching him do his thing and put in his work. I mean, it just was unbelievable, I'm sure, to see just the talent he had.
Yeah, he was, he came basically into the league the same year that I was coming in. And just to see some of the things that he would try, I'm like, man, this guy's going to get just absolutely pasted at one point. And he never did. Just so creative with the puck, would do things in practice that would just put you in awe. And then all of a sudden, he's doing it in a game situation. But like you said, very kind of quiet guy, just went amongst his business. And, I think he learned a lot from Igor in his first year on how to be a pro, how to approach the game and, try to change his style a little bit to the North American game, that would still obviously allow him to be Pavel Datsyuk. And yeah, it was crazy. You'd play, keep away at the end of practice with them and you never touch the puck. It was like, someone like, say, myself, and I got a young son right now who's 7 years old, and if I was playing keep away with him, obviously I could keep the puck for as long as I wanted to, really. But Pavel Datsyuk was doing that to NHL players, and it was just like, it was so fun to watch in practice. But it was great to be on his side, because you just didn't want to get embarrassed, and you knew that he could do it at he just could turn on a button, stop, and he was always creative and being able to think what you were going to try to do, and he was 2 steps ahead of you.
Yep, definitely. He just incredible with the hands and the ability to switch gears, and not a speed demon by any stretch, but he didn't need to be. I mean, he was just absolutely spectacular, and just the way he would really trick defensemen with deep moves and just incredible hands and ability to just change his path of his stick and the puck, really all in one motion. Just spectacular stuff. Zetterberg, obviously, this is a guy that was a great two-way player in the league for many years. You got to play with him in Detroit. It's definitely got some Patrice Bergeron and Ryan O'Reilly type characteristics to his game, just that 200-foot game. Definitely more of a you could tell. Did you tell with Zetterberg right away? I can see why this guy's one of the leaders of the team. He just leads.
Yeah, again, he was, pretty quiet, and that's how, a lot of the leaders were in Detroit. Steve Yzerman did not say a whole lot. He led by what he did on the ice and what he did off the ice.
And work ethic, off the ice, right?
Absolutely. Yep. And Nick Lindstrom was kind of the same way. Didn't say a whole lot, didn't have to say a whole lot, because he just go out and do it. But Zetterberg, when he first came in, you knew that, he was something special as well. His puck protection, strength, and again, like, not super fast, but just so creative and smart. With him and Pavel, I don't think they really got credit on how strong they were. They were just very strong. They'd be doing stuff after games, like little workouts before we get onto the bus, and that was just them. And at times, like, you almost had to say, "Hey guys, like, we got to slow down here. You don't want to wear yourself out." And they're they would basically say, "No, we're building for, the playoffs. We're getting ready for the playoffs now." And this is in October, November. Like, they're preparing themselves and thinking about playoffs already. So, it just kind of stemmed down from, I think, the leadership group and how we carried ourselves. And they were great guys to take over the leadership when guys retired and stuff. So you knew that Detroit was going to be in good hands with those two players. And, you look at those guys, like, neither one of them, I don't think, ever won a scoring title, ever. And they did not care about the points that they put up. It was all about the team. And, that's one thing I think some guys can kind of get caught up in, is like, okay, I got to score 50 goals this year, or I got to have 100 points this year. That didn't mean anything to them. It was about the Stanley Cups and their playoff performances. And it takes a while, I think. Obviously I was very fortunate to be on that great team in 2002 and to win in pretty much like my first year of pro. But then never came close ever again. So it just shows how hard it is to win in the NHL. And, you have to kind of sometimes put those personal goals aside and think, okay, hey, this is going to be better for the team. And if I can become a better 200-foot player, block shots, be good in my D zone, things like that, that's going to help the team win. And I think that when you see your leaders laying down the block shots or back checking and stealing a puck, it just rubs off on everybody else and makes them that much better as well.
Yeah, no doubt. That 2002 team, which is, again, that was back in the days when, Datsyuk in particular was just getting into the league and starting to get himself assimilated to the NHL. Actually, Zetterberg wasn't even with the Red Wings yet in that 2002 team, the Stanley Cup team. And by the way, Jason's 2002 Detroit Red Wings team, they won the Stanley Cup in an era when the President's Trophy winner didn't turn into a fucking puddle in the Stanley Cup playoffs, right? Yeah. Hello, yeah. Boston Bruins. How are you?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the kiss of death, though. Like, that year we went down 0-2 to Vancouver, and to this day, I remember that bus ride like it was yesterday. We landed in Vancouver, and we got on the bus, and from Vancouver to the hotel downtown, we had probably 10 carloads of people like out hanging out their cars and just like screaming at us, "You guys suck, you're gonna choke, blah blah blah." And we get into town. Steve Eiserman basically calls a team meeting, and not much was said. It was just like, "Hey, keep playing the way we're gonna play, and we're gonna get a bounce. Once we get our bounce, it's gonna be lights out for them." And sure enough, Nick Lindstrom, I think it was game 3, takes a shot from the red line, scores a goal, and you could just see it was like a weight lifted off the players, and we ended up going on to win that series.
And of course, the legend, Scotty Bowman. I mean, what can you say? I mean, he is still, in my opinion, as a hockey historian. Now, of course, I was born in '85, so many of all the Montreal Canadiens years with Scotty there were before my time. But I've watched the classic games. I know the Hall of Famers that were all up and down those Montreal teams. And I mean, look, he had great players, and you can't win as a great head coach without great players. Good coaches will admit that it's the players that end up getting the job done at the end of the day. But still, you are talking about one of the absolute greatest coaches in all of sports, really, because Scotty Bowman's right up there with any comparable in any of the other major sports. Phil Jackson, Red Auerbach in basketball, definitely Vince Lombardi, Bill Belichick in football. I mean, he's right up there with that kind of company in terms of the 4 major sports in North America. One of the greatest head coaches going, and the success he had, and the ability he was to get through and connect to players and get the best out of them. He got that out of all of his teams, including those Red Wings teams in the 90s. And then, of course, that last cup with him at the helm, which you were part of.
Yeah, he was, you never really knew what he was thinking. Was he an X and O guy? No, I don't think he was a huge guy on X's and O's. He was more about who he had out against other teams and his matchups and things like that. He was very particular with that. And then I think a lot of the players just kind of knew if you weren't going, then you weren't playing. And he'd let you know. But he would try to do everything that he could to give you a chance to come out and prove that you could, get out of a slump or whatever it was. And I think that's one of his strengths was being able to keep guys accountable. To have all those all-stars with Fedorov and Hall and Shanahan, Yzerman, Luc Robitaille. How do you give ice time to all those guys to keep him happy? And he was able to find a way to do that. And I think maybe he doesn't get as much credit as, obviously a lot of people think he is one of the greatest coaches. And I think that as well. But to be able to have a team like that at that time, and to be able to get them to put their egos aside and being like, hey, if we want to win a Stanley Cup, like this is how we have to play, and this is what we need to do. He got everybody to buy in. And that's one of the things that he was so good at, was getting his teams to buy in and understand, what was at stake and what needed to be done.
I agree too. He's up there on the pantheon as far as I'm concerned of head coaches. But it was a great group of players you got to be with in the Detroit Red Wings, and obviously a lot of success. Let's not forget that later on in the 2000s, you're not another season where you were President's Trophy winners, but an earlier exit obviously in the playoffs. So that was the one year where President's Trophy. It ended up happening. What were you on one of those Detroit teams where it was Edmonton that knocked them out early? I think so, right?
We lost Edmonton the one year, and then we lost to Calgary the other year.
Yeah.
Calgary went on to go to the finals, and Edmonton went on to go to the finals, and obviously both of them lost in the finals. But that was tough. Like, it was just like, man, like we get by those 2 rounds, and we might find ourselves in a Stanley Cup Finals, and that would have just added on to the success that Detroit had. But it was just one of those things where maybe it just didn't go our way. A couple bounces, a few guys were banged up here and there, and just things weren't kind of following the way they could have, I think. But, Detroit had always from the 90s to the 2000s there. Like they just were able to find players to fit certain roles. And they were always a contender at the beginning of the year. Like you were always talking about the Detroit Red Wings, and they just kind of sometimes flew under the radar a little bit. Because they'd bring in a few guys and you were just like, oh, okay, they're okay. They're going to be good role guys, but then they were just able to find ways to, gel as a team and come together at the right time.
Yep, no doubt, no doubt. And it was, like I say, you were consistently one of the better teams in the NHL every year there in Detroit. But that was not the case when you got to the Chicago Blackhawks, the next stop. They were in obviously turmoil. It was really a dumpster fire for about 10 strong years there, from the late 90s to the time you were there in the 2000s. And you were there just pre-Taves and Kane era of dominance with the Chicago Blackhawks. I think you actually played with Taves maybe his very first year, I think, but you weren't there before when Kane got there to the team. But if you look at those Chicago teams, again, they were in transition. They were one of the worst teams in the league throughout most of the 2000s, and stockpiling draft capital, which they ended up putting to good use. Of course, they won the lottery the year that they were able to draft Patrick Kane. And of course, great timing that you're on, and you had the Blackhawks connection after last night. They win the lottery again, and they're going to be able to take, obviously, Connor Bedard next month in the number 1 overall pick. But still, it's a traditional hockey market. It's a big metropolitan area, one of the bigger ones in the United States, and I'm sure still putting on the Chicago Blackhawks jersey, even though times were tough for the franchise when you were there, still a thrill.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime you're putting on an original 6 jersey, there's just so much history behind it. And, I was a little disappointed. It kind of caught me off guard and kind of by surprise. I wasn't, kind of talked about being traded. And then, for me to kind of go to Chicago, where, 8,000, 5,000 people at a game, we were pretty much mathematically out of a playoff picture by the time I did get traded there. So that was kind of tough, but we kind of knew that there was some, good young talent coming up. So the year that I got traded there, we had Duncan Keith, Patrick Sharp, Brent Seabrook, and the following year is when Kane and Taves came in. And to see these guys come in training camp, to be honest, Patrick Kane did not have a very good training camp the year that he came in. And I was like, man, this kid's small. I don't know if he's going to be able to hack it right away. But they were going to give him at least his 9 games to see what he could do. And like during the preseason, like I say, he was, decent, showed some glimpses. But then as soon as the regular season started, it was like a light switch went off, and he just kind of just went on his own and just started playing with a ton more confidence. And then you were just like, whoa, yeah, this kid's going to be good. But yeah, I like to, to go from Detroit to Chicago was a little bit of a disappointment, but I tried to make the best of it. And I knew that I was going to a place where I was going to get another opportunity, fresh start. Just it was a little unfortunate. Things didn't really work out. Had a couple injuries that kind of held me out of the lineup a little bit. And then, once those 2 years were kind of like were up, I was thinking, well, I was almost a point per game in the 40, I think it was 43 games that I played that year because of injury. And it was tough because I had an injury. It was a sports hernia. And so I sat kind of for 6 weeks, and I just basically went to the practice rink, and sat on the trainer's table, iced a little bit. And then it was like fighting traffic for an hour on the way back. And for 6 weeks I did that. And then all of a sudden I got a second opinion. Within 2 minutes, the guy's like, yeah, you need surgery. And I go and I have surgery in Philadelphia, and I'm back playing in 5.5 weeks. So I sat for 6 weeks and did nothing. And I was just like, it just kind of I put a sour taste in my mouth, and I didn't have the trust that much in the training staff, let's say. And I was like, does this organization even care what is wrong with me? Or, it just kind of left a sour taste. And I get it. Like they're the best at their jobs, and they have a lot of players to look after. And I understand it. And looking back at it, I could have probably handled the situation a little bit better, but then, yeah, it just kind of left me out hanging. I felt a little bit. And, when after those 2 years were done, I was a free agent and ended up that summer signing with Atlanta.
No, and it's funny because Alex, who is my colleague on this show, born and raised in Chicago, he's living in Minnesota now, but he's from Chicago, lifelong Blackhawks fan, and he's going to be the first person to just be ripping the team in that era for just ridiculous it was. It was a shit show. It was a shit show with ownership. Nobody was in the building. I mean, it was hard to get people in the seats. Kind of like last year, actually, there was that element that Chicago kind of returned to those dark 2000 days last year when you saw the building, and obviously, again, tough times with them rebuilding, although that's going to change in a hurry, and we'll get to that in a moment with the Bedard winning the draft lottery last night. But yeah, just another log to throw on the fire, Jason, as far as the Chicago Blackhawks at that time of year, that it's kind of like they didn't really take care of things as far as your injury situation there as well as they could have.
Yeah, like I say, it was kind of tough, but they've had obviously a lot of success in the last little bit, and then the last couple of years with guys obviously having to leave, and with the cap era, it's tough to keep teams together. And you have great example would be kind of Tampa now, the core guys that had been there for a long time. The Palat is out now, and trying the Goudreau and a few other guys that have, moved on to go to different teams. It's tough to keep those players around like you were able to back in the day. And, but it helps teams. Like you look at a team like Seattle now, look at what they're doing. If you look at their team, to name 7 or 8 players on that team that are like, wow, yeah, this team's really good. You look at that team, you look at that roster, you're just sitting there going, they're okay. They're decent. They'll be okay. But again, that's the fun thing I think about hockey is you find a group of guys and you get them to believe in themselves and commit, and playing as a team, anything can happen. And Vegas was a prime example when they first came into the league and got to the Stanley Cup final. Again, none of those players, yes, those teams wanted them, but they were like, we have other players that are better that we're going to protect, and we're okay letting these guys go. And then all of a sudden, they get to the Stanley Cup final. It's that was a huge surprise.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone in the chat wants me to ask Jason about playing with Dominik Hasek. Yeah, of course, one of the absolute, all-time great goaltenders. You talk about anything it takes to make a save, Dominik Hasek would do that. Unorthodox, he would, flip-flop and fly all over the goal crease. Whatever it took to keep that little round piece of rubber out of the net, he was willing to do it. Incredibly athletic in terms of what he was able to do, the Snow Angel, whatever it took, Dominik Hasek. And I still, every time I think of Dominik Hasek's playing days, I think of that Hockey Town red bowl-looking goalie mask he always wore. One of the, it's one of a kind, certainly in terms of the way he wore it from a goalie mask standpoint. But yeah, the Dominator, Jason, and I'm a Buffalo Sabres fan. Growing up, so I remember so many great years where he literally carried the Buffalo Sabres on his fucking back to the Stanley Cup final in 1999. And of course, we won't go into the Brett Hull thing. I'm sick of talking about it, but we don't get there without Dominik Hasek just playing at an incredible, insane level. And he did that for many years, and I'm sure it was fun to watch him in Detroit.
Yeah, most goalies are different birds. He was very special, likes things certain ways, but again, just in practice, he was by far the hardest goaltender to score on that I've ever shot on. We'd be doing drills, and we knew that, he hated pucks being in his net, hated it. So, we'd be doing a drill, and you'd be at the side, and you would think that he's not looking or paying attention, and you throw a puck towards the crease area and thinking I'll just throw this puck in the net. And he would take the shot and then save it, and then he'd see that puck coming towards the net, and he'd be like, kind of almost dive out of the way to like being like, no, don't be putting pucks in my net. Hated being scored on. Very, very competitive. I remember like even just like, I was one of the guys that was out on the ice after practices, like working on certain things and staying out as long as I could, because I was like, I'm not leaving the ice until all these guys are off the ice. Like this just, I was like, I knew I had to be out there because I would get razzed if I went into that dressing room. So, he would stay out sometimes and he'd be like, okay, hey, take 5 breakaways. And I'd go in and I would, miss on the first 3, and I'd come in and say fan on one, and it happened to go in the net. Sure enough, he'd be like, okay, get 5 more pucks. You got to do it again. He was not leaving the ice until he stopped all 5, or if it was 10, didn't matter. Brett Hall would be doing one-timers on him, and I'm going like, this guy's crazy. Like if he gets hit in the shoulder, like this is our starting goalie. Like, yikes! Like, and he's so good, and was able to really like help us, win that Stanley Cup in 2002. Like, but we'd be sitting on the bench at times. The play would be down the other end, and he would be flopping around doing other stuff. Like he'd be like visualizing what's happening in the offensive zone and how he would make a save if he was in a certain area. And it was like, guys were like, what is this guy doing? But, that's how goalies are. They're just they're just a different breed, I guess. But very, very, great goaltender, worked extremely hard. And, he was a great guy. He was, kept the room pretty light.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And I kept saying when I was watching him, especially in the Buffalo days, late 90s, and had just incredible level of goaltending from him. I said, one of these days he's going to be responsible for Rick Jenneret having a heart attack in the broadcast room. I mean, Rick Jenneret calling some of these big saves, Shaq, we are not worthy, and just you talk about a guy that just made incredible saves. Time and time again, and incredible career, and fun to watch him play for sure. So after that, it was after the Chicago tenure for you, it was really bouncing around for many years. Obviously a lot of games built up, the years moved on. I'm sure injuries mounted a little bit too, but Atlanta, Columbus, Detroit, Dallas within a 4-year stretch, 2008 to 2011. Briefly with the Penguins organization. You went overseas, which I think might have been when there was a stoppage for the NHL at that time. Yeah, back to the North America with the Oilers organization. I think the Barons in the AHL were their affiliate, at that time. Of course, now it's Bakersfield. And then over to Germany, and then even most recently played for my little town here, Dundas, outside of Hamilton. So really, you've been like I say, a roadmap as far as traveling and where your hockey career took you.
Yeah. And, like you said, there was a few injuries here and there. I think that if I could have stayed a little healthier, could have probably stuck around in the NHL a little bit longer. And then when there was talk about another work stoppage and stuff. And, I think I was right around 30, 31 at the time. And, I talked to some people that had played overseas, and especially in Switzerland and Sweden and things like that. And, guys had great experiences. And I thought, am I going to really like waste half another season? I already missed a full season because of a work stoppage. So, am I going to waste another year and kind of see what happens? And hopefully we start on time. But if we don't, like, I would just, at that time, I was like, you know what, let's make that jump. So I signed a 2-year deal in Switzerland with Ambry, and, went over there, and sure enough, come say the start of the season, there was no NHL season. There was no talk of when it was going to start. So at that time I was like, maybe I did make the right choice here, and, maybe trying to come over here, establish myself, have a couple good years. And, I know many players that had played over there, that had been there for 10, 12 years and, had a really good time. And the thing with playing overseas is they pay for everything. They pay for your living. They pay for your, your taxes and all that kind of stuff. So, all you had to worry about was getting to the rink. They gave you a car. You had to put gas in it and get groceries. And if you had a phone, that was your phone bill, and that was it. So, a lot of the responsibilities of an adult, they were taken care of. They were just kind of there and just kind of playing hockey and having fun. So, being in Ombre, it's a very, very small little kind of town village, if you want to even call it. 5,000 people, I think, in the town that we played in. We were in the southern part of Switzerland, so we drive up to practice, and it's -10, -12, and at each end of the rink was open to like the elements. So it was like playing outdoors with just a roof over top of your head. And we were right up in the mountains, and it was cold, extremely cold. We had like chicken noodle soup, hot and ready, on the bench for us at times. And to leave your sticks on the bench for, say, a game as a spare, if you broke a stick and that stick was at the bench, it was at least, you used an 85 flex, it was a 90 flex or 95 flex. Like, it was crazy how cold the things were. And if a shot hit your stick, boom, blow up completely. But the town really supported their team. And it was a great experience. I really enjoyed it. When the NHL guys came over, Max Pacioretty played in Ombre for, I don't know, 2-3 weeks and then took off. But a lot of those guys came over and played. And, I think it came to Christmas time, and the Spangler Cup was coming around. And so all the NHL guys that were there, we ended up, making a team and played in the Spangler Cup up in Davos. And,
the rosters were loaded that year when the NHL was out
Yes.
because of the work stoppage. Oh, it was a loaded Spangler Cup in terms of just the quality.
Yeah, and it was great. It was a lot of fun, good competition.
Yep.
Joe Thornton was there, Rick Nash playing for Davos. I think Patrick Kane played for Davos. And, like the Team Canada, we had Tavares, we had, Sam Gagner, Bergeron. And it was a lot of fun. Like, the guys, we had a great time. And to be in that Spangler Cup, and a lot of people, I think back here kind of watch it at times. I don't think it's, obviously the World Juniors is a big thing, and it's kind of on at the same time. But people will kind of watch the World Juniors and then click over and be like, oh, the Spangler Cup, and they just see the facilities and see how the European, the chanting and all that type of stuff. It's just a different environment. Different atmosphere, and but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed my time in Switzerland, especially the first year. Second year, I kind of got hurt during the playoffs in my first year, and it kind of messed me up for majority of this next season. I had a wrist injury where I had to have surgery done. I had a metal plate put in my wrist. Dislocated it, tore a bunch of ligaments and stuff like that. It just took me a long time to kind of come back from it. And, I think the team was a little upset that I wasn't the leading goal scorer of the league the year before when all the NHL guys were there. But, I was playing injured, and there was nothing I could really do about it. I wasn't fully healed. And, I tried my best to do what I could do.
And it's a wrist injury, and we know how important that is to shooting the puck properly.
Yeah. And I honestly, it was so weird. It took me a year to get the grip strength back in my hand, where if I would shake someone's hand, how when you shake someone's hand, if it's like a dead fish, you notice right away. It's like, oh God, like that just doesn't feel right.
Right. And
I would feel like I'm squeezing as hard as I could. And it would be like shaking hands with someone that like it was like a dead fish. Like, if my grip strength was 70 on one hand, and my grip strength on my other was complete, like it was less than half. And I thought I was squeezing as hard as I could. I just had no strength in it, and I couldn't do anything. And to this day, like I feel that injury the most, I would say, where, I don't have a great range of motion. I can't, get myself into a push-up position because I can't bend my wrist back. I have to kind of make a fist to do push-ups if I were going to do push-ups and stuff like that. So it just took a long time for it to heal. Once it healed, I was back in North America playing, like you said, with Oklahoma and with the Barons. And, it was just, I was happy to come back to North America. And I thought, you know what, maybe I could give one last kick at the can here and see if I can get into an NHL lineup. And, it just didn't happen. But, to play with the guys, to see Brissois, that was his first year, kind of in the minors there. To see him have success and
That's true. Yeah,
Vegas
Brossois
right
was
now,
there. Yeah, yeah.
it's great to see some of those players kind of pan out and make it. And we had a pretty good team. We had a pretty good run the year that I was in Oklahoma, and a lot of fun. And like I say, now just kind of keep in touch a little bit here and there with some of those players that I played with, and seeing some of the young guys that had come in. Having success at the NHL level is good to see.
Not at all surprised to hear another positive review from one of our guests playing in Europe. I don't think there's anybody that's told me, hey, it sucked. It was miserable. I hate the people there. I hate the landscape. I hate the scenery there. No, everybody has said nothing but positive things. And it doesn't matter what country it was over there, whether Germany, Switzerland, Italy, Czech Republic, Czechia, Sweden. UK, there's a lot. We've had to play in that EIHL league over there now in the UK with Cardiff and Belfast and all those teams, and they say that's a great experience. So there's nobody that we've talked to, Jason, that says the European experience hasn't been a good one.
Yeah, no, it was pretty good. And even my time in Germany, again, I go over there a little bit late. We started, I was kind of coming through halfway through training camp. Signed a little bit late, and then when I got over there, my first exhibition game I played, I fractured a vertebrae in my low back, and I tried to come back twice from that, and I felt so bad because being an import player, you're an important player on those teams, and they rely on you, for producing and basically helping that team, and I just felt bad where I wasn't able to do what I wanted to do. And, I only played 9 games because my back wouldn't let me do anything. And that's one of the things now is if I go out in the ice and I play, maybe with some friends, or like you said, when I was playing in Dundas, the next day my back really, really would get pretty sore, and I could feel it. And
was it to the point where it felt like it was seizing up on you?
It was more like, you know how you're kind of bent over in that hockey position. I couldn't hold that for very long. I remember, like, even if I was at home, just like tidying up and doing some vacuuming or something like that, after like 10 minutes of vacuuming, I was like, my back would, like, I'd have to sit down and be like, oh, I couldn't hold that position with like my back kind of being on that angle. So, even, working out now, lifting and stuff, like I can't load heavy weight. I can't put heavy weight on my back and do squats. I can't do it. My body just doesn't allow me, and my back just like screams like, don't ever do that again the next day. Or if I'm doing jumps or whatever, plyometric stuff, I just, can't do it. I can only do so much. And you just find a way to cope with it, and do the best that you can. I know my mobility isn't obviously where it used to be, but I think that's one thing that I think gets overlooked a little bit, is I think that if I could have improved and kind of concentrated a little bit on my mobility while I was playing, I wasn't like a guy that was like super stiff or anything, but working on that mobility, the hip mobility, working on your low back, the core stuff. I think for young players now, it's not always about lifting that heavy weight. It's I think that if I were to redo my career, I think at about 26, 27, I would have really completely got away from lifting heavy weights, because like how much stronger are you going to get, and how much stronger do you need to get to perform as a hockey player? You have to be mobile. You have to be athletic. You have to be able to, maneuver and get yourself out of tight situations.
Especially these days. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
more so.
and speed is such a huge thing now. So, I think getting away from some of the heavy lifting, the power lifting, the movements and stuff like that, I think I would have gotten away from a little bit earlier. And whether that would have made a difference, I don't know. But I think it might have helped, and something that I could maybe, try to pass on to someone else that, asks me, what do you think I should be doing in any type of training and stuff like that. I think that, like, once you get to a certain age, 26, 27, maybe even 28, I think you're not going to get that much stronger. And that was one thing that I really noticed with, like, a guy like Brett Hall. Wasn't in the best shape, but very, very flexible, very mobile. And, like, he was able to, you'd walk into the room in Detroit, and he'd be laying there in almost the splits and doing the New York crossword puzzle. And it was just like, his hips, the things that he could do, he was so flexible, and his mobility was great. And I think that's one of the reasons, well, it could be one of the reasons why he was able to play a long time.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned the issue you had with your back, and it's still a problem. You can't put too much weight on it these days. I know I have a father that's had tons of back issues. Like he had a herniated disc in his back. His sciatic nerve is completely fucked, and he's basically had to go for multiple surgeries to get it taken care of just to alleviate some of the pain. And he's got to do stretches every single day, pretty much, or else there's going to be some level of pain that comes back for that lower body area, lower back, I should say, area. So, yeah, I mean, it's not fun to have issues with your back. I'm worried now because as a son of his, I'm thinking, I hope I don't have the same shit, 20, 30 years from now. That does worry me a little bit. For someone that doesn't have great posture, like I've been bent over on my computer, area here for years doing this job, and I feel like I'm going to pay the price for it. 10 or 20 years from now. Hope not, but kind of feels that way a little bit. All right. So great stuff talking about the career. What a career in terms of so many good teams and players and coaches. And Jason, that's the one thing you can definitely look back on and say, boy, satisfied with I got to play with, I got to win a Stanley Cup, got to play on some excellent teams, some great teammates, some incredible players, good coaches, and you can look back on that with satisfaction. We're going to look back on with satisfaction as well. To a moment in your career here. We always do this, especially the first-time guests. We roll the highlight film, we open up the vault, and we go back in time to see a player moment from our guests past. And this is a good one. This is one that my guy Alex B. Smith, my colleague, picked out. It was Halloween night 2007, Chicago Blackhawks at Dallas Stars. And it was a game that you played pretty damn well. So let's roll the tape. Let's get to the good moments here. Let me just see if I can find it here. So it was 3-3 at this time of the game. Oops, we had it there. Hold on. There we go. You got to find it. Okay, here we go. So it was 3-3 at this time of the game, and for the Dallas Stars, and it was basically back and forth from this point on. I think they ended up actually taking the lead 4-3, and things weren't looking good for the Stars, for the Blackhawks rather, at this time in the game. You're going to see here Dallas ends up taking the lead, and our guest here, Jason Williams, decided to take matters into his own hands and say, I ain't letting our team lose this hockey game. Do you recall this specific game, Jason?
I do remember this game. Kind of scoring 2 quick goals in the third period, and I think the last goal I ended up scoring was I kind of come into the offensive zone, kind of come across the middle, and I throw a shot, low blocker.
There it is.
This was just a tip, great pass by Robert Lang, and played with him in Detroit as well. Great character. Wow, what a beauty he was. If you want to know how you were playing, go sit with him in the sauna after the game, and he'll let you know who's playing well and who's not. So, but yeah, this was that was the goal to tie it 4-4, and then shortly after that, like I say, I got the puck in on the right side and threw a shot, low blocker on Smith, and able just to kind of catch him moving a little bit here, and just kind of caught him off guard. And that ended
Look at that shot, beating Mike Smith, far corner. Pick that far corner, that area of the net where it's difficult for the goalie to ever have that puck when it's placed in that area.
Yeah, that low blocker shot. I think obviously
what a shot.
Even today, I tell a lot of our players and kids that I'm trying to teach and stuff, and kids that I'm coaching, that low blocker it's a difficult save for the goaltenders. Everybody wants to go bar down, and it's a pretty goal, but you know what, at the end of the day, they don't ask you how you scored them. They ask how many you got, right? So, you know, just a shot that was one of my things that, you know, I talking to goaltenders that I played with or played against, they all knew that I loved going low blocker, and that was one of the things that they were like, we knew that you were going to go there, but you were pretty good at disguising it. You know, no, I'm not a Hall of Fame guy that scored 400 or 500 goals in the league or anything like that, but that was one of the things that they said, that they always remembered that you know, I would always go low blocker or high glove or something like that. And as a righty, I think that's kind of where, you know, most players and most right-handed shots, they kind of, I think, kind of lead to that area. I think nowadays, trying to convince players to shoot 5-hole, I see so many goalies like letting 5-hole goals go in, but like, how often do you shoot 5-hole in practice? I can, you know, go to a junior team, go to an NHL team, and ask them how many times do you face a shot 5-hole, and they'd be like, they could probably count it on one hand, right? So if you're never shooting there and they're never taking shots 5-hole, really, you know, it's one. I think it's become kind of that new low blocker, you know, shot where players are starting to shoot low blocker a lot more. You know, I try to tell the players that like I'm teaching them or coaching them is aiming for the heel of that goaltender stick, because as they go down, they have that tendency to bring their arms in. When they bring their arms in, it moves their stick just ever so slightly. So when you look, you don't
Opens up
see,
far side just above the blocker. Yep.
yeah, and you don't really see it, but you know, it's a shot that's pretty effective nowadays.
Yeah, it is. It was effective for you on October 31st, 2007. I'll tell you that much. Terrific shot. Mike Smith, of course, just in the very beginning of his NHL career, and a much younger Dave Tippett, as you could tell in the video
Yes.
clip as well.
Yeah.
That was. Can you believe that was 16 years ago? I mean, you must
You
boggle
couldn't
the mind.
find that clip in high def.
No. You know, I think high def was just rolling around. Prior to last week, the Toronto Maple Leafs hadn't won a playoff series in high definition. It had been 19 years since, and I know for a fucking fact 2004 never had high definition.
Yes,
when
yeah.
the last time they won a playoff series. But and we will get to the NHL in just a moment. We'll talk with Jason about the playoffs that are ongoing, the series, and the 2 games tonight. We'll tee them up as well. But last of all, on the Jason Williams topic of discussion, how is things post playing, and how are you keeping busy right now?
Yeah, like I said, I have a program here in London, Ontario that it's called PhD Hockey, and it's just basically helping some of the younger kids in around the area develop their skating and skills and things like that. So I'm pretty much on the ice every day, every morning from 7:15 to 8:15, usually before school. Have a group of kids in all different age groups come out and work with them. And then I'm also doing some coaching on top of that. I'm coaching the Strathroy Rockets in the GOJHL. And I just kind of finished my second year coaching them. I coached minor hockey for 2 years, major bantam and minor midget with the 04 age group. And yeah, so just been kind of coaching and keeping myself involved with the game a little bit. I really enjoy it. I love the coaching. I love, you know, watching video, breaking down games, seeing what other teams are doing, and you know, trying to teach that to some of these kids can be a chore at times, but you know, trying to help them out and understand, you know, what's going to help them get to the next level and make that transition as easy as possible for them is something that I enjoy. And, you know, I've liked, you know, doing that in the last 5 or 6 years that I've done it. I'm going to kind of continue doing that and continue going down that road. You know, there's a lot of players that I work with in around this area that, you know, now are playing in the OHL or playing some type of junior hockey or about to make that step to junior hockey. And, you know, to see their growth and see where they've come is great. And, you know, the fact that I can say that I maybe helped out in a little bit in any type of form, you know, it's great. It keeps me busy and, you know, keeps me, you know, moving around and not just sitting around. That's not something that I could do, is just retire and sit back and not do anything. I want to stay busy, stay involved in the game. I feel like I'm a student of the game, and I've always had that passion. And, if I can take it into the coaching, if there's an opportunity to take my coaching or player development or something like that to another level, I'd obviously consider it. The one thing is, as you listed at the beginning of the show, I moved around quite a bit. And, I have a young family with my wife and my two kids. My daughter's 10 and my son is 7. I don't want to move them all around like crazy, but if the right opportunity presents itself, it's something that I've talked to my wife about it and considered that if the right opportunity comes, that maybe I jump on that.
There you go. Keep your options open, and you never know. Like I say, you never commit to something and only that, and you shut the door to any and all other possibilities. That's always the good way to go about it in life. Always keep all your options on the table. And like you say, whether it's coaching and training and what you're doing now, you love the game. You're still, watching hockey as well. Loved being connected to the sport. So it's definitely something you want to be involved with moving forward. We'll talk about Vegas and Edmonton in a sec, but first we got to talk draft lottery last night. Chicago Blackhawks, one of your former teams, Jason, the lucky winners of the number 1 overall pick in that lottery. They will get to draft Connor Bedard, number 1 overall. My colleague Alex B. Smith was actually on a live reaction show for the draft lottery last night, and I didn't know he was actually on one of these, but he was. And yeah, his reaction when the Blackhawks won the number 1 overall pick, to say the least, was he was quite happy. And like I said, let's put out an APB on Alex B. Smith when that announcement was made. I thought we might need to call an ambulance for him. He passed out or something. He was just in such shock and such excitement and at the moment that it was announced that Chicago was the number 1 overall pick. So they'll get to draft Connor Bedard. How much of that kid have you been able to see, Jason, on television or whatever? I mean, in the World Juniors, obviously, we got to see him a lot playing for Canada. I know there's been some of his team's games with the Regina Pats have been televised on TSN specifically this year, but does look like this kid, he was too good for the junior ranks this past year. What he was doing, he was destroying the record book in the junior ranks this year. It's hard to believe that he's going to be a miss. It really is.
It is. You watch him play, and the good players, you always talk about it is the puck seems to follow him. Maybe sometimes things might not be going for him in that game, and then all of a sudden you look down and he's got 3 points, and the puck follows him. But he's a very smart player. He's able to find ways to be effective, and you talk about all the good players, and that's the one thing that they all have in common, is that they can think the game at a high level. I think that's what separates him from, his draft class, is his ability to be able to think. And he's just on a complete another level. He isn't the fastest guy. He isn't the biggest guy. He doesn't have the, I wouldn't say the hardest shot, but he has a very effective shot. Finds ways to be able to, get it off. He's got a great release. And you hear, all the memes and the stuff on the internet about the toe drag release. So, he's been able to kind of master that. And, I think he's going to be a special player in the NHL. But in saying that, you're going to the NHL, it's a different league, and it's a big step from junior hockey. But I think that
he's got to do the typical young kid at that age, especially as an underage, like he's still 17, 18 right now. He's got to put on weight like every kid at that age has to. He's got to show he can take physical punishment, withstand, and be a hard forecheck kind of guy as well. You just can't be skating up and down and doing things at a rapid rate without seeing some pushback. You got to be able to show that you can be hard on pucks, play through contact, that kind of shit. And yeah, that's the stuff that he's obviously, every player at that age is going to have to work on. And it's through putting on more weight, getting bigger, getting stronger.
Yeah, and that will come with time. But I think, like I say, you look at his skill set, the way he can read the game. And he's just you can tell that he's an exceptional talent. It's good for the game. Obviously, we've been pretty spoiled, I think, in the last decade or so with like guys like Sidney Crosby and now Connor McDavid coming in and doing what he's done has been tremendous. And to sit and watch Connor McDavid, like just to sit back and see the things that he does at such a high pace is incredible. Like he can make plays. He's an exciting player to watch. I think that if you're an Edmonton fan, you're going to the games and you're just like glued to this guy. And Leon Draisaitl, like he's no stiff either. And watching him
He's been outshining number 97 in the playoffs so far this year.
And he's done a great job, and he's finding ways to get things done. And again, like they're two different players, like completely different players. Connor's got that speed and the ability to think well, and he's got the quick hands. But like Draisaitl, he's not as fast and as flashy, I would say, but his ability to make plays, to score, his shot, his creativity is great. He's such a big body. He can protect pucks so well. And the one thing that kind of always stood out in my mind, and maybe for some of the younger listeners that are listening to this, is when I was in Detroit, sometimes people would say to me, like, you have to be, harder on pucks, or you got to be grittier. And I was like, okay, well, does grittier mean like going out and running guys over? Because I wasn't obviously the biggest guy. And Ken Holland pulled me aside one time and he explained it in a simpler form. And I think that it kind of sort of resonated with me. I was like, wow, okay, I never thought of it that way. And he brought up Pavel Datsyuk and Henrik Zetterberg. He said, when those guys go into the corner, who comes out with the puck? And I was like, well, Pavel or Hank will come out with the puck. And he's like, do they run guys over? And I'm like, well, no. And he goes, well, what they do is they either outthink them or they're strong on their stick. What they're doing is they're winning a stick battle. So I was like, oh, okay. So I don't have to necessarily like be physical and go in and like get that puck. Like as long as I'm coming out with it, that does the job. And he's like, absolutely. So that's the thing. Like, I think back in the day where, I'm coming through a lot of these players, oh, you got to be gritty. You got to be gritty. And it's like, okay, well, guys were like, okay, well, I'm going to go out and just run everything over that I can see. And that wasn't the case necessarily. It was more about just going into that puck battle and coming out with it. So however you do it, whether you use your head, whether you lift a stick, or you're strong on your stick, or you're physical with them, whatever it is, however you figure that out, come out with the puck more often than not. And so that was like, oh, okay, that makes sense to me. But that was 8 to 10 years into my playing career that I thought, oh, I need to be physical and gritty. I need to run guys over. And that wasn't the case. So, sometimes like you maybe hear a coach say to you, like, yeah, you got to be grittier. You got to be stronger on pucks. It's not necessarily going in and being physical. It can be, just being hard on your stick and winning a stick battle, 50-50 puck battles, being there first, touching that puck first. Those are the things that, I was like, oh, okay, that kind of made sense to me. And then I tried to add that into my game from there on. And I found that it did help me.
It's a great segue because I was going to go to the Vegas Edmonton series next, but after what you said, it's a perfect segue into the Toronto Maple Leafs. What you just said, really, really, it hits home everything you just talked about. Hard on pucks, hard on your stick, getting to that loose puck first, winning that one-on-one battle on the boards with that opponent for a loose puck, to get the puck, to get the possession. It's all the shit the Leafs are not doing right now in this series against the Florida Panthers as they now trail 3-0. And when I look at it, especially, it goes without saying, your core 4 players who have got 50% of the cap tied up in their salaries right now, Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and Tavares, for them not to have a single goal combined, in 3 games in this series is bitterly disappointing. And, they were very invisible. Like I say, my classic phrase, Jason, when I think a player has a bad game, I say, I can't find them with a telescope on the ice. And I felt that that's what we saw from Matthews and Marner and Nylander and Tavares in game 3 in particular. In a game that their team basically had to have it. You don't want to go down 3-0. We know it's only happened, 4 times in NHL history that a team has come back from 3-0 down in a series to win in 7. And we just did not see that kind of, that winning battles, puck management, winning battles, winning one-on-one situations, winning foot races, winning battles along the boards, especially, which is really where Mitch Marner's had some issues. I mean, I think in that game 3, he had like 3 or 4 turnovers just along the wall, along the boards in game 3. And it's just, and even in game 2, what cost them that game after a great first period? Just awful turnovers and giveaways at your own blue line that you just cannot make, trying to dangle yourself out of your own zone when you should be just getting that puck north or keeping it on your stick, showing composure and waiting for an outlet, and unfortunately that didn't happen. And Toronto paid the price right there with those 2 egregious mistakes in game 2. Florida ended up scoring on both of them, and they ended up taking game 2 after that. But game 3, it was just not enough of an impact from any of those top players. And then I don't know what they were doing on the Reinhart goal in overtime, where it's just total breakdown in coverage. Reinhart skates with, he's like got a free pass apparently through the neutral zone watching that play. It was unreal. I mean, he's just tap dancing his way into the zone with ease. Nobody lays a finger on him. He gets the puck around the net. Total lack of, defensive coverage by the 2 blue liners. Brody really had a tough moment there on that goal. And of course, Reinhart just allowed to walk right out from behind the net, wrap it around and put it in past Joseph Woll, who I thought did everything he could to give the Leafs a chance. I thought that young goalie played well. And apparently we're hearing that he's going to start tomorrow night in this must-win game 4 for Toronto. So I guess Ilya Samsonov just not ready after the injury he suffered on Sunday. But it goes right to your point, Jason, what you said about winning puck battles. They're not doing it enough. And after a game like that, where the top players are so lackluster, I'd like to hear a little, well, we sucked tonight. We weren't good. We kind of, it was kind of an embarrassing effort at times, and we need to be a whole lot better. I didn't hear a single quote from anybody, Marner, Matthews, Nylander, anybody. It was just the same old shit, the same old word speak. From a player where it's just, the puck just didn't go in, didn't get any bounces, and puck's just not going in for us right now. We got to stick to our process. I want to see a little piss and vinegar after a game like that, especially when I think I know if I'm Austin or Mitch or Willie or Tavares deep down inside, I could play a whole lot better than that. And, I'd like to see that anger, see that frustration, and use that as maybe fuel to galvanize the group going into a game 4 like that. And I didn't see it. And look, there's, the guys want to win. I don't doubt that for a second. But there's a way you have to play to win in the Stanley Cup playoffs. It's not just making the fancy plays. It's not just the routine, shoot the puck and hope it goes in for you. You've got to be hard on pucks and win your battles. They're not doing enough of that, especially that big 4. With all due respect to Sam Lafferty and David Kampf, they can't be your best forwards. They can't. And that's what it was on Sunday night in game 3. And so where they go from here, I don't know. But like I say, for these guys, yeah, you could be getting and the shots are there. They're getting some chances, but this isn't a participation ribbon that we give you guys. This isn't, the shots, you win the shots on goal battle league, you win. This isn't the you win your scoring chances battle, you win games. No, these guys are paid, Jason, to put the puck in the freaking net. Okay. And they're not doing that right now. And a big part of it is they're not winning those tough battles.
Yeah. You said it right, where, they're not winning enough battles, 50-50 races, things like that. You look at the goal that was scored, like you said, Reinhardt's goal in overtime. He gets the puck in the neutral zone, takes it into their zone, comes back out. And I think there was if I remember the replay, there was 3 Leafs right around him. Kind of just sort of chips it in a little bit to an area where he can go get it, beats them to the puck, throws it in behind the net, and this is kind of what you're told. Throw it in deep, get it behind the goal line. And then once that happens, let's go east-west behind the net, and then something should open up in front of the net. Now, does it happen every time? No, it doesn't. But he throws the puck down low, it rims around to the other side. I can't remember the player right now, but rims it in behind the net, and Reinhart is going there. He knows that once I rim that puck, chances are it's coming back. And, Brody loses a puck race and doesn't get there first and kind of gets on the wrong side of Reinhart, and Reinhart's allowed to kind of walk out and wrap it and scores a goal. And like you say, I'm not blaming the goaltender on that. It's a tough play. Like you're looking back and forth, like, where's that puck going? Is it my guy that's getting that puck? Is it their guy getting the puck? And that's what I find that when I'm watching too, that the Leafs aren't doing enough of. And it's easy to sit there and say, us as fans, as we're watching the game and stuff, but I think that I definitely, every player in that room wants to win. But it's gut check time, and they've dug themselves a pretty big hole. And like you say, it hasn't been done very often where a team goes down 3-0, but the hardest game to win in a series is Game 4, because you're going to get that team's best. And it maybe sound cliche, but if Toronto comes out and just wins one game, but don't think about winning the game. Think about winning your shift. Think about winning that battle, that first battle that you're involved in the game, win that battle. And, now you got to see where, if you continue to win those battles, then maybe it's a trickle down effect. As you guys see it on the bench, we're winning battles tonight. And then all of a sudden you get some confidence, then things could open up. We just don't know. But they do need to get pucks in deep. They need to get pucks on the goal line, put some pressure on Florida's defense, make them turn pucks over, finish some checks on them, make them understand that this is a playoff series and this is going to be hard. We're not just going to, lay down and let you guys have it. So, I don't count Toronto out, obviously. But I think that, unless they get some, like you said, from some of their key guys, they have to find a way. Every time I'm watching Nylander play, man, like, he is so scary. I think he's one of the most scariest guys from the red line to the offensive zone. Like, he's just going to make something
Skill
happen.
is immense on him. Yes, it is.
So skilled.
Yep.
And he's just, but then when I watch him from the red line back into his D zone, do I watch him back check hard and steal a puck off of a guy? I don't see that, right? Where, Pavel Datsyuk, Henrik Zetterberg, if you got to step on them, if they turn the puck over at the blue line,
they're busting their tail back down the other way and saying, "I'm making up for this."
No, that's my puck. And they were stealing it back. You look at a Braden Point. There was a clip not too long ago of him back checking on a power play. I think they were playing Columbus. There was a turnover and they were on the power play, regular season game. And he absolutely flew back to the defensive zone and stole the puck from the guy just before the guy was going to get a really good scoring opportunity on the shorthanded. And you just don't see enough of that with the Toronto. Like, I love the fact that Austin Matthews
has been okay at that. He's the one I'll give a little break to, because even in the third period of Game 3 on Sunday night, I'm seeing him backtrack and break up plays in the Florida offensive zone. He did it a couple of times. I'll give him more of a pass with that, because I've seen him do it. But I'm talking about Marner. Marner's been great all year. I don't think he's been doing it as much. But Nylander, yes, he's the one that definitely you find it's very, very inconsistent and more infrequent with him in terms of the 200-foot game.
Right. Yes. I think that Matthews he's really kind of come a long way in his 200-foot game. He blocks shots. Yes, he still makes mistakes down low and stuff like that, but like his effort is pretty much there. If you look at the end of the game, like, he's getting a ton of shots. They're just not going in right now. He's getting them from fairly good scoring areas as well. But like you say, Mitch Marner, I would like to see him get to the middle of the ice a little bit more. Yeah. He is on the outside. He's making plays. He's such a smart player, but like, you've got to get to the middle of the ice. You've got to find a way to get yourself like into those dirty areas a little bit more. Like, there's times where he's doing it, but he's just not on a consistent basis, which, wears teams down. It makes he'll make a play. And are you beating your guy back to the net? Like, that defender has to now, like, oh my God, like, he made a play and he's beating me back to the net. Now he's like panicking and may open up something behind him, right? By him just driving to the net. But yeah, you just really don't see enough of it. If you're watching the game, watch who comes out with the puck on 50-50 puck battles. Watch who touches the puck first. That's the one thing that I see, when I'm watching the games, is Toronto's losing those races. Toronto's not coming out with the puck more than 50% of the time. If you're coming out with that puck less than 50% of the time, you're losing all those battles. They're doing a pretty good job on the face-off in the first couple games that I saw. I didn't really see much of Game 3, but like face-offs, they did very well against Tampa. they were, I thought in the first couple of games they did pretty well against Florida when winning those faceoffs, and that's a 50-50 battle.
It's always been important. It's even more important today, the faceoffs, just because of how explosive and how much firepower so many teams have. You just got to have the puck, and they don't.
Yeah, and that's one thing that get that possession, and then if you're going to put it in an area to dump it in or something, whatever it is, put it in an area where you have a really good chance to get it back, or they're going to turn the puck over because of your forecheck. And like the Mitch Marner, the Nylanders, like those guys are very crafty players, and I just find that there's something missing in their game right now, and they're excellent players in the regular season, but it is playoffs it's a different brand of hockey in a way, and I think that's what keeps it so exciting with the NHL is that you just get yourself in and anything can happen, and Florida's been I think a prime example of that, and doing what they did with Boston. Sticking to their game plan. We all know what their game plan is. Just get the puck below the goal line. Geez, every analyst that I've ever, watching, that's what they're all saying. And you watch the games and that's exactly what they're doing. But a guy like Tkachuk, man, like that guy, he's not flashy. He's not fun to really watch, but man, is he effective in the playoffs. Like he is so good at getting a puck on or getting a stick on a puck, or getting in on the forecheck and just finishing a check and just understanding that defenseman knows every time he makes a play he's getting hit, and it's something that they've done better than Toronto. If Toronto can find a way to get a little bit better with winning those puck races and winning those battles, they may be able to find themselves to creep back into the series. But if they don't, then it's going to end in 4.
Yeah, exactly. And as far like for Austin Matthews, and I've said this too, I mean, we're not paying him to be Frank J. Selke,
right?
Or being nominated for the award. I like the defensive effort, but he's got to put it in the net, put the biscuit in the basket. They all do, and we'll see if they can do that starting Wednesday night. Last night there was only one game. It was Vegas Edmonton, and it's been a series of bounce back and adjustments, really. Game 1 was a competitive game, back and forth. Vegas wins. Edmonton responds the way you would hope they would respond with a big 5-1 win. Vegas got in penalty trouble early in Game 2, and anytime you do that against Edmonton, you're going to pay the price, because it almost seems like that power play, Jason, it's one of the great all-time power plays I've seen in a single season, where it's now at the point where, a team takes a penalty against Edmonton. Oh, here's the goal's coming. It just put a goal on the board right now. They're going to score. And that's the way it has been. Although last night, after the 5-1 loss to Edmonton on Saturday, what a bounce back from Vegas, who actually did shut down the power play when Edmonton got those few chances, but they also did a much better job staying out of the box, playing at 5-on-5 even strength. Where quite frankly, Jason, Vegas has been the better team so far in this series at 5-on-5 even strength. Now, I know McDavid, Draisaitl, they get all the talk, and this Edmonton team and the firepower. I don't think people talk enough about Vegas and the fact that they've got 4 great lines: Barbashev, Eichel, Marchessault, Smith, Carlson, Amadio, Howden, Stevenson, Stone. Nicholas Waugh is a 16-goal scorer, 30-point guy on the 4th line for the Vegas Golden Knights. They're very balanced with their 12 forwards. Same thing with the blue line. They have Stanley Cup experience and winners: Alex Pietrangelo, Alec Martinez. Shea Theodore's a great defenseman. McNabb, is very good in his own end. Hagen, Whitecloud have really developed into good defensemen. And they play so well that it's allowed the 2 goalies, Laurent Brossoit, who got injured, someone well, he got injured last night. Aiden Hill takes over, and Aiden Hill looks great. And he's actually played well in the second half of the season, Aiden Hill, when he got starts for Vegas. So that was a big statement for Vegas to take, not only to take a 2-1 series lead, but if Edmonton and this star power of theirs and this firepower of theirs are going to win this series, they're going to have to earn it.
Absolutely. They've really relied on their power play a lot. And obviously it makes teams play, I think, a little bit different. I think that you can't take that maybe, that extra couple steps to maybe finish a check the odd time, because is it going to be called a penalty? When you have a power play that lethal, it's pretty scary, and you're playing with fire if you're going to take penalties against them. And they've had a very effective power play. They have so many different looks. The movement that they have on that power play is tremendous. And it's like they're all on the same page. As soon as they take something away, they know which play they're running, and they all
The
know
puck
which one they're
doesn't stop
doing.
moving, and the players don't stop moving. That's why it's a great power play.
Yeah, and it's great to watch. Like, it's so fun to sit there and see, McDavid kind of circling around and being like, okay, well, they know they want to go to that one timer for Draisaitl, and once that play is taken away, maybe they're looking into the middle for like a shot tip with Nugent Hopkins, or they're planting Hyman on the side to make the net a little bit bigger, and they're going to shoot it off of him, and it's going to go in. If they take that stuff away, they got the defenseman there,
Bouchard
coming down the pipe, blasting a 91 to 95 mile an hour slap shot. Like, that
and
kid,
man, he's got a howitzer. He can hammer that thing. Wow.
Yeah, and again, a guy that's not like super gifted skating wise, but he plays to his strengths, his shot, and the fact that he has the confidence to being like, okay, McDavid's flying around. That play didn't work. That play didn't work. Now, okay, if it gets to me, I'm blasting this. And it's like, good for you, kid, because he's a young player. Like, he's not an older guy. And like, if I'm back there, I'm sitting there, I need to get the puck to McDavid or Draisaitl, and my job's done. But he's not thinking that way. He's thinking, hey, I can contribute to this power play. And I think that's a tribute to him, and showing the confidence that he has in his ability, and then his reads to make those right plays. And, Woodcroft has done a great job, facilitating and getting him out there on that first power play unit. And like I say, like, this power play unit has been great to watch. But like you say, Vegas did a great job, staying out of the box and then finding ways to take things away from them. I think they're a little bit more aggressive on their PK the other night. And just having good sticks in lanes and deflecting pucks and just getting a piece of, and Edmonton just didn't look like they had it. They didn't look like they were kind of playing on their toes like they did in game two. On game two, they were just buzzing. They were flying around. Things were going.
You find it's sometimes a bad thing, and especially in a playoff series, when you not only win the previous game, but you beat the team down like that 5-1, and it's almost like false sense of security. Oh, look, it was such a comfortable win, and it's just going to be that you just mentally you don't have that same, like, we need to be on our toes and ready for this team when you're just beat the hell out of them the previous game. It's kind of like a mental thing.
It is, and I find that even in my experiences playing and even coaching, as soon as we play a team and we blow them out in a playoff, say, series or something, if we were to win 5-1, 6-1, 6-0, 7-0, whatever it was, that next game, I don't know, it's like human nature a little bit. You just see, it's like, oh, you take your foot off the gas pedal a little bit, and it's like, okay, I can ease myself into this game. Where the other team's like, hey, they embarrassed us. We got to make sure we're ready to go here. And they usually come out flying and control the play for especially the first 5-10 minutes of the game. So I'm expecting Edmonton to have a big pushback in their next game. And, Vegas did, capitalize on a couple bad breaks from Edmonton and capitalize on their chances, and were able to, score a few goals. I think it's just going to add a little bit of confidence to them, being like, hey, we can score against these guys, but we have to do it as a team, and we have to do it the right way. If we don't do it the right way, they'll embarrass us like they did in game two.
Exactly, no doubt. I never imagined we would, before we even hit the 2 games tonight, it would be 80 minutes into the show. But how much time do you have, Jason?
I got all the time in the world.
Oh, my gosh, great. All right, we'll keep you around right till the end. All right, let's get into tonight's games. We got 2 East semifinal, Game 4, Carolina Hurricanes, New Jersey Devils. New Jersey -150, home favorites here, 5.5 the total in this one. And it's another great segue. It's not planned. I didn't prepare it this way, but you were talking about the bounce back theory. And a team, how do they play the next game after they blow out? They roll a team. And New Jersey, I love New Jersey in game 3, first period especially. And I targeted the first period for my bet on that game, Jason. -0.5 at +170. It was a great price. It's just win the first period. New Jersey clearly did that. They were up 3-0 after the first period of game 3. Just a very simple decision where it's a home team down 2-0. They know they have to play better. We have evidence that after being down 2-0 in the first round against the Rangers, the New Jersey Devils didn't give up. I like the adjustments Lindy Ruff, my old head coach with my Buffalo Sabres many years ago made. He puts a little more speed on the back end in the lineup in Luke Hughes, who I know is just a young kid, the younger brother of Jack Hughes, but I think it made some difference. I think their transition game, getting the puck north-south, was better. Certainly, and it's all started with, we talked about the Toronto best players not showing up. That was not the case for New Jersey. Their best players did show up. Timo Meier gets the first goal. Jack Hughes with 2 goals. Nico Hischier was fantastic. I mean, those are maybe your 3 best forwards right there on the New Jersey Devils, Jason. They all played a hell of a game, and they're a big reason why you got back into the series with a Game 3 victory on Sunday afternoon. So will New Jersey keep it going? I have a series bet on New Jersey, which I took after Game 1 because I was able to get a better price after Carolina took Game 1. So I obviously they're right back in it now, but this is still an equally important game for the New Jersey Devils. They don't want to go down 3-1 going back to Carolina, where the Hurricanes have been so good in the playoffs at home last year and again this year in that building in Raleigh. That being said, I'm a little worried about New Jersey here. Plus the price they're laying, -150, that's pretty high considering this is a Carolina team that's not used to getting blown out and embarrassed defensively. This is one of the best, Jason, defensive teams in the NHL. They have been all year, and they were just uncharacteristic turnovers and breakdowns defensively. New Jersey made them do that, but it's stuff you don't normally see with Carolina. Not to mention it wasn't Freddie Anderson. A good game for him. He got pulled. I'm pretty sure they're going to go back to Freddie tonight. I don't think they're going to make any sort of goaltending change right away going into tonight's game, even though it was not a good Game 3 from his standpoint. I'm just looking to see if we don't have confirmations either way for the goaltending. Vanacek and Anderson are the projected goalies for their respective teams tonight in this game. But I'll say this, with the way these playoffs have transpired in recent games in particular, I just get that strong sense with it. The price we're getting with Carolina, I actually do kind of like them here. This has been a recent playoffs of the team that lost the previous game coming out firing the very next game, especially teams that have lost in blowout fashion. Even Toronto did this. After Game 1 against Tampa in the first round, they came back and they blew out Tampa in Game 2. Look at Vegas. Down 5, lost 5-1 at home to Edmonton Saturday. What did they do last night? They put a 5-1 win of their own on the board in Game 3, and they were ready to go. I mean, they did give up the first goal, but still, for that first period, you could tell they were the better of the two teams. And and he said that Rod Brindamore said it was the worst game he's ever seen his team play, especially defensively. So I expect a response from Carolina tonight. I like them in the first period. Carolina, even though kind of contradicting myself because I like New Jersey in the series, but we're talking about individual situations here. And I think this individual situation points to Carolina. This is a team that's been pretty good at responding, especially off a bad loss. The stats bear that out too. If you actually look, Carolina is 23-9 in their last 32 games after a loss of 3 or more goals. So that tells you the blowout losses, 3 or more goals, the margin of defeat, 23-9 for the Carolina Hurricanes in the very next game. So I think this does set up well for a strong start from Carolina. Plus 125 with the first period money line. I like that. Maybe a little sprinkle on the full game, but I like the first period look even more. And as far as the total goes in this game, we've seen 3 games go over the total. There's been no adjustment in the total. It's still 5.5. This is one game where I think situationally this could be the first under of the series, maybe your first 2-1, 3-1 game, because I think Carolina is really going to button it up, tighten it up defensively after what we saw getting ripped for 8 goals, 8 Cobb on Sunday. But, I've been on the over in every game. It's still 5.5. There's been no adjustment. So I am back to the over tonight with this game, but with a hint of caution that with Carolina just getting embarrassed defensively, they're really going to want to tighten up tonight. If it loses, so be it. Because like I say, I've had 3 overs in this series. If we lose one, so be it. But they've made no adjustment. I'm still in on the over 5.5 here tonight in this one. Jason, what do you think transpires here? Game 4, Canes, Devils.
Yeah, like you said, I think it's gonna. I think Carolina is gonna come out with a big push. I think if New Jersey can either match their intensity, they just basically have to get through that first 10 minutes of the game. Maybe if they can find a way to score a goal early, I think that would help New Jersey. But if Carolina scores that first goal, I think that gets them a little bit of confidence, and they can maybe, gain some confidence off of that and start rolling with it, being like, hey, today's a different day, and we're going to be different to handle today and stuff. But I think you're right. I think both coaching staff, like they're going to have their guys prepared, ready to go. And they all know that, both teams are going to come out, I think, swinging. And I think the first team that kind of starts to try to push the envelope and try to maybe cheat for some offense or something like that, and then all of a sudden something can happen and they could find themselves down 1-0 or whatever. But for New Jersey's a fast team. They're quick. They're good at winning puck battles, like winning races to those pucks. I think if Carolina does a good job of kind of clogging up the neutral zone, giving their D some time to get back to pucks and break pucks out, and not letting New Jersey come through freewheeling, because some of those guys can just come through the neutral zone and just absolutely blow by you. Like, they just have those players that can do that. So slow them up in the neutral zone, and then make them, obviously make them defend. For Carolina to win tonight, they're going to have to put pucks into, areas they can get it back, and make, I think, New Jersey, with some of the smaller forwards that they have, they can struggle down low at times. I think with, Carolina, they're not a huge team, but they've got a couple bigger guys up front that can, make it harder on some of their forwards and make it harder on some of their D.
Yeah, I definitely could see that happening for sure. It's a very intriguing game, because I'm leaning more toward it's Carolina's spot here, especially early. They're going to answer the bell, because that was just such an uncharacteristic defensive sieve of a game from them, which we just honestly, go back and look. When's the last time Carolina's given up 8 goals in a game? I can't remember off the top of my head, with that blue line. And that's a blue line, Jason, that there's no real true, like Jacob Slavin, I think would get, some outside maybe Norris Trophy votes. But other than that, it's a blue line that's just great, because they're 1 through 6 pretty deep. Slavin, Burns, Shea, Pesce, even Gostisbehere has found finally a team he's played well in. It's because he has some defensive deficiencies, but even they've pulled better defensive play out of him here in Carolina, and Chatfield as well. So it's a solid blue line. The value's there. I mean, it's a plus price. I expect a good, a strong first period after getting their ass whipped in Game 3. So I can't fault the Carolina look here, and that's why I'm going toward that argument. The other counter argument is, well, New Jersey figured it out after the first 2 games in the Rangers series. Maybe they figured it out here as well, and they're going to roll the rest of the way. So, and that home crowd, when they get that team, when that team gets that crowd energized, they can be tough on you. So interesting to see how it goes here. I think as far as the prop market goes, I would target for New Jersey, keep it to the guys that I trust to step up for them. It's Jack Hughes, it's Timo Meier, it's Nico Hischier. For shots on goal over props, I'm always interested. I would look in that direction. They have been shooting the puck. The shot attempts are there. You just have to hope they don't get blocked or they hit the post, which Matthews has done a lot in the Toronto series. Because remember, shots again on the hit the post or the crossbar, they don't count as a shot on goal. So when you're betting those shots on goal props, make sure you're aware of that. I think the goal props, the assist prop for Hischier continues to come through as well. And it's right around even money with that. So that's definitely a solid look. On the Carolina side, Aho, Burns, Jarvis, Necas. I think if you're going to look at 4 guys that are going to be the guys that bring it tonight for Carolina, carry the team in a bounce back effort, it's those 4. Aho, Necas, Jarvis, and of course Brent Burns on the back end, who I like all 4 of those over shots and either a goal prop or a point prop of some kind as well in this game tonight. And this could be one of those nights too where, he finally didn't have a great game the other night. The whole team didn't, but don't sleep on Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who has had a really nice series. He had an incredible game too. He's been making an impact offensively. He's one of those bargain bin options. You get a better price on it. Can look toward maybe him to make an impact offensively here tonight for the Hurricanes. And Dawson Mercer too for New Jersey, because the point prop is starting to kick in with him once again as well. All right, the second game here of this Tuesday night doubleheader. And of course, we'll be on our live betcast tonight during the two games. So we're looking forward to that. So a reminder, it's 7 p.m. Eastern. If you want to join us live on the betcast tonight, DM me at Bobano on Twitter or email bobano350@gmail.com, and we'll send you the link for the betcast tonight before it starts. The second game is Dallas-Seattle. We've got Dallas minus 140, road favorites, 5.5 the total. Seattle leading this series 2-1. I mean, the dominant theme, Jason, that I've said, a lot of our guests have said, is just this team speed is Seattle. They're just really fast. Line 1 through 4, I think the blue line's a little bit underrated because Adam Larson is playing like the guy we thought he would play like early in his career. Vince Dunn has been a breakout defenseman this year for the Kraken. Oleksiak, Borgen, Soucy, and Schultz. It's been a nice 6 they've got back there. But it's really the 4-line wave that Rick Tocchet said it on the TNT panel the other night, and he was absolutely right. You know, you can't distinguish line 1 from line 4 for the Seattle Kraken. You really can't. I mean, they're all capable of making an impact. Beniers, Eberle on the top line. Ty Cartier has stepped in and played well for the Kraken. Schwartz, Gord, Bjorkstrand. And then you even get Brandon Tanev and Eli Tolvanen, who've played on the 4th line for Seattle, stepping up for them offensively. I mean, they have just got 4 lines they can roll out there and all, win the battles, be on the offensive zone, win the forecheck battles, and that's been impressive to witness. Dallas did not have a good Game 3, and I felt Game 3, Jason, turned when Miro Heiskanen took that puck off the side of the face and left the game due to injury. And you talk about an impact injury. That blue line suffered big time without him on Monday night. He's just everything for them. Defensively, power play, penalty kill, 5-on-5, their best puck mover by far on that Dallas blue line. And without him, it basically fell apart for Dallas not long after that, and they ended up getting blown out. But this is kind of the way I feel about Carolina, the way I feel here about Dallas. I think Dallas does respond. They've got a much better game in them. And from what I'm reading here, Peter DeBoer seems to think he might have Miro Heiskanen back tonight, and he's avoided serious injury. He was on the ice in morning skate, and he's a game-time decision. They haven't ruled him in yet, but they expect him to be back, and that's huge because with all due respect to Esa Lindell and everyone on the Dallas blue line after Heiskanen, nobody can do the things Heiskanen can do and do them well. Yanni Hakanpää, not so much. Miller, Harley, Lindell, Old Man Winter, Ryan Suter. I mean, none of those guys, can basically do what Heiskanen can do on the blue line. He's just that important. And he starts the offensive rush up the ice so well that it's imperative, very important at the very least, that Miro Heiskanen plays. And it looks like he's on the trajectory toward playing tonight in Game 4 for Dallas. So, Alex and I both kind of thought Seattle could win Game 3. They did. I think now's the time to go back to the Dallas side here. I think they show up big. And you talk about a bounce-back team and a bounce-back goalie specifically. That's Jake Ottinger. This kid is, I think, the real deal as far as goaltending is concerned. He didn't have his best game. The whole team kind of crumbled after the Heiskanen injury in Game 3. He got pulled. Scott Wedgwood finished that game. I think Jake Ottinger answers the bell. He's, 3-0 in the playoffs off a loss so far in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think you see Dallas really respond in kind. And I'm going to go not only Dallas money line, minus 140, but I'm going to take them in the first period as well tonight on the puck line. And you can get that at -0.5 plus 175 with the Dallas Stars first period puck line. I like that quite a bit. You could even maybe sprinkle on the Dallas team total first period too, which is another thing I've been looking to do with these teams, looking to bounce back after a bad game and start strong in the first 20 minutes. And I'm going back to the well with this over as well. The over has cashed in all 3 games in this series and also every regular season game between Dallas and Seattle this year. I can't explain why that is, but it's just we've seen goals when these two teams meet each other. And I think we're probably going to see that again, even with Ottinger playing better. The total is still only 5.5. And it's kind of like the series we just talked about, New Jersey, Carolina, where, 3 overs. I've been on each of them in the series. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If we lose one finally, so be it. But we're not deviating, and we're going to go back to the well here over 5.5 here with Dallas and Seattle. Jason, what do you think here of Game 4 with the Stars and the Kraken? The Stars obviously very important for them, trying to avoid a 3-1 deficit.
Yeah, I think, like you said, you're going to see a good response from Dallas. Dallas's power play has been very good in this, playoff so far. But the thing with Seattle is they are fast, and they're, like you said, the 1 through 4 in their forward group. It's hard to distinguish, like, who's their, first line, let's say. And, to be able to put out 3 lines or 4 lines, and not have to worry about matchup so much, that's a coach's dream. And, you just kind of roll with your lines. And then obviously you have your special teams where you got guys filling in here and there. But when you can have a team where you can roll 4 lines and you have the confidence in all 4 lines to play for a long series, for a long playoff run, it's going to pay huge dividends at the end. So, with Dallas, I think that they are going to have to get off to a good start. Obviously on the back end, if they don't have Niskanen in, then it's going to be an uphill battle. But they have I think they have the core group of guys in that room that have been through a lot of experiences that will be able to kind of help prepare them for tonight's game. And I do see them winning tonight. I feel that they will get themselves back into this series. The only thing that does scare me about this series is the Seattle's speed. You watch that first series with Seattle and Colorado. That was like it was like a track meet. It was insane how fast that hockey was. Like I was watching some of those games and then go watch a couple other games. It was like slow-mo. I couldn't believe how fast it was. And they just play at a pace that is hard to slow down. And it's just, you got to get some of the Dallas, they're going to have to get some of their bigger bodies to get in front of these guys and try to slow them down. They're not the biggest up front, but they're quick and they get to hard areas and they win those battles. So, it's going to be a good game. But like I say, I think I do see Dallas kind of coming out on the right side of things tonight.
Yeah, I do. I think it's a good. Dallas has been a great team in a response type of mode throughout the playoffs as well. Again, they have yet to lose back-to-back here in the postseason. And like I say, Jake Ottinger, there's so many goalies off the top of my head. Hellebuck, Samsonov for Toronto this year in these spots, but not only a bad game, but getting pulled in the previous game. Look out for the next game. You often see them bring their absolute best, so that would not surprise me one bit here tonight in this game. As far as the prop market goes, I think for Dallas, I'm focusing on Hintz, Sagan, Ben, Pavelski. Those 4 guys. Shots on goal, to score a goal, point props, you name it. Those are the 4 I'm looking at more than anything else. I probably can't help myself, though, because I just so much like what I see from Wyatt Johnston, the rookie, and Mason Marchment, and they give the Dallas Stars a little bit more punch in terms of depth offensively. That I might, put a few bucks on the goal props for them, which are up in that plus 350 to plus 400 price. And then on the Seattle side, I mean, Vince Dunn is starting to ratchet it up again as far as the points. He's on a point streak. I think Vince Dunn to get a point, Eberle to score a goal. He's been big for them lately. And then, of course, down the lineup, don't sleep on Yanni Gourde, too. He's the kind of playoff player that can make an impact. He's just in your face all the time. He irritates the fuck out of you as an opposing player. There's always those kind of players, and he's that for the Seattle Kraken, just like he was when he was with Tampa Bay before that. So, yeah, Yanni Gourde's been making an impact. So, goal prop and a point prop for him. I wouldn't mind that either. Same, and Eeli Tolvanen found the back of the net last game as well for Seattle. He can be streaky, and usually those players that, they score after they've been quiet for a few games. Sometimes the goals flow in bunches, for those streaky scores. So maybe look out for Eeli Tolvanen here as far as Seattle goes in this game tonight. All right, great stuff. We were fine. This a little longer than I expected, 90 minutes, but it was great. I mean, getting into the nuts and bolts of the career of Jason Williams was certainly fantastic, and we certainly appreciate his time and him joining us here on this Tuesday edition of the Ice Guys. And shout out to everyone watching. Hit the like button if you're watching on YouTube, and shout out to our podcast listeners as well. We will be back to wrap up the show with best bets, and we'll have final thoughts to wrap things up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great sponsors, Gramco and Manscaped.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Gramco. Whether you or your team's game is on the field, screen, racetrack, court, or the ice, Gramco is for the game. Grown by farmers who spent years developing premium hemp genetics, Gramco provides customers with consistent quality Delta-8 THC products ready for any occasion. Gramco currently offers numerous Delta-8 products, including vape cartridges, disposable vapes, pre-rolls, gummies, wake and bake coffee, and more. Gramco offers an enjoyable, legal high delivered discreetly and directly to you. Gramco is also available at many American retailers as well. You can get the best Delta-8 cannabis products on the market shipped quickly and discreetly from Gramco. And if you visit www.thegramco.com, use promo code Ice Guys, you will get 20% off of every order, and any order that's on the site over $50 will be shipped free with standard shipping. So live elevated with Gramco and check out their wonderful Delta-8 products today.
Support for the Ice Guys is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package, the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS. That's promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. If my math is correct, it's about 14 million balls that you can preserve. The Performance Package 4.0 is the complete accessory package to take care of everything that is required. You've got, of course, the Lawnmower 4.0. Takes care of your facial hair and among other things. You've got, of course, the Weed Whacker. I'm approaching 40. Nose hair has become a major issue. It pisses the hell out of me. I need to take care of that shit, and the Weed Whacker can help you do that. Both of these products, waterproof and a 4000K LED spotlight for a more precise shave. And you'll also be able to take care of those delicate areas with the ball toner, with the ball deodorant, keep you smelling good, looking good, and feeling good down in the nether regions. This complete Performance Package 4.0 will take care of everything for you, for all you guys out there, and it's courtesy of our good friends at manscaped.com. So get 20% off and free shipping with the promo code ICEGUYS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use promo code ICEGUYS. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. All right, we are back and we are ready to wrap things up with our special guest, Jason Williams. Your most confident prediction tonight, Jason, what would it be if you had to have one?
I think
both kind of like Carolina and Dallas, it seems like. Which one do you feel better about?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Dallas.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I feel better about Dallas too. I mean, Carolina that's a good, young, skilled, fast team, and maybe they cracked the code New Jersey in Game 3, and they're ready to carry it over here at home tonight. But still, I mean, when you lose like that, and Carolina's not used to losing like that, and I'm sure it's really angering to them that they lost like that on Sunday, I do expect a big pushback and a big response from the Hurricanes here tonight in Game 4. But I'm with you as well. My best bet's going to be Dallas. I'm just going to go minus 140 here on the money line, although I do like that first period look as well. You know what? I'm going to go with both of them because we'll go with both of those looks for best bets. So split it up because that's what I've done. Half on the Dallas minus a half, plus 170 first period puck line, and then half on the Dallas minus 140 for the full game money line as well. I do think they tie up this series tonight at 2 games apiece. And Jake Ottinger, the king of bouncing back as a goaltender, I think he does so once again tonight. Jason, this was awesome. Great stuff. I hope you had fun. Most of our guests do. Thanks for joining us. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me on. And like you said, it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And we thank everyone for joining us. We got the Betcast tonight. Make sure you join us for that. And make sure, of course, if you can't watch the Ice Guys show live, that you download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms. For our special guest, Jason Williams, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday. We'll see you tonight for the Betcast, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here, the Ice Guys, presented by National Hockey Now.